And welcome back to another episode of Halfcourt here, late night slate with your boys, Matt McClure and Logan Dolby on the mics.
Yeah, it feels good. A late night show. I will be calling the women's soccer game tomorrow during our 5 to 6 time slot on Thursday. That's why we had to do it late tonight, 9 to 10. It's going to be a great show, man. And really looking forward to it. Got some new segments on the show. With it being NBA offseason, can't wait to jump into it.
Yeah, man, kind of like the Scott Farrell time slot here a little bit. Feel could be a little crazy this week. Could be something a little bit different, you guys. We're going to be unveiling a new segment this week later on in the show, so definitely stick around for that one. But for now, we're going to pop into some current NBA news, keep you guys current and live with it. And for one, we had the Team USA in FIBA defeating Poland. Big news there, 87-74 on Saturday. You got to love that. Poland, a really crappy team as far as international play goes. Absolutely no NBA talent on that roster. Beat them 87-74. Came out pretty strong in the fourth quarter, unlike what we saw in their loss to Serbia. And players are looking good, and now Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Damian Lillard all have voiced their opinions on this upcoming 2020 Olympics in Japan, and they all say they're in.
Yeah, thank God they're in, because they probably saw what this USA team was looking like in FIBA, and we're like, this can't happen, man. We got to get some stars on this team. There's no need for Miles Plumlee to be on the roster. Let's get Steph. Let's get Damian Lillard and Draymond Green on this team and bring back the mojo that is USA basketball. Really good to see them step up and say, hey, 7th ain't good enough in FIBA. When the Olympics come in 2020, we need to get our best guys out on the court, and that's exactly what Team USA is doing here. I like it.
Our best guys seem like they want to finally play for the country. And, of course, I mean, for Steph, this is kind of big for his legacy and for his Hall of Fame career here, because with Basketball Hall of Fame, it's not like the NFL Hall of Fame where it's just your NFL production. It's your all-around career and lifetime production in the game of basketball. So women get elected to the Basketball Hall of Fame. College, if you were a great college player, not so great in the NBA, still you can get elected. International players. So Steph has never actually played in an Olympic basketball game for Team USA. So this could just be another thing. You know, they go out and win the gold in 2020 if they get a decent squad going out there. And this could just be just another accolade to throw on the resume here for Steph Curry.
And another point here, these guys stepping up for Team USA, these big-time players stepping up for the 2020 Olympics means other guys are going to follow. If you see Steph Curry saying, hey, I'm playing for USA, you don't think LeBron James might say, hey, maybe I want to play for Team USA in 2020. I mean, it's just a great job there by some of these guys stepping up, realizing that 7th place isn't good enough, and saying, hey, when the Olympics come, let's get it going. Let's bring Team USA back to that elite level that it really was for years and years and years in international play.
Yeah, 2020, the Redeem Team. We're not talking Dream Team. We're talking Redeem Team. Go out there, capture the gold, make your country proud, guys. Moving on, though, Kristaps Porzingis lately in the news he's been looking really good in his workouts. Him, a couple of teammates, namely Luka Doncic, DeLone Wright, they went down to Miami to do just like a regular team workout, team bonding experience, since Kristaps has never really played for that team with those guys, and neither has Wright. So they got a couple players down there trying get that mojo going, get all the pieces coagulated here for the Dallas Mavericks as they look to make a push for the NBA playoffs in the upcoming season. Kristaps, of course, tore his ACL in 2018, hasn't seen the court since, but before then was averaging 22 points and 6 rebounds, 40% from 3. So we are excited to see what the Unicorn has in store for us if he looks the same whenever he comes back. Right now, it's looking good for him.
Yeah, it is, and he's building chemistry with Luka Doncic, and that duo is going to be the future of the NBA for years to come, and you like to see that if you're the Dallas Mavericks franchise. It's big time. Kristaps Porzingis, you mentioned it, what he did in New York. He was lethal from anywhere on the court. He's 7'3", and he is just a force wherever he is, in the paint, outside, defensively, blocking shots. It doesn't matter with this guy. Really nice to see. Now, there's no footage of it, but he's getting some of his players' words saying this guy's putting in the work, and it's showing, and you like to see that if you're the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, looks great. Signed that 5-year, $158 million deal to stay with the Mavs through his prime. So hopefully for them, he can really get things cooking in Dallas. And Golden State in the news. They've got their fresh threads going on. They just announced that they're going to be going with some throwback unis featuring San Francisco on the logo. I like these jerseys a lot more than their current jerseys. I think their jerseys kind of they kind of stink, honestly. They're in the bottom tier for me as far as jerseys go. Just I don't really mess with them. They don't look that appealing to the eye. So, and their colors are so, but these new threads are really sharp, featuring like an all white base, really nice secondary colors.
The San Fran on the chest, man, it is dope. Check it out on our Twitter. We quote tweeted it, put some eye emojis. There's some nice jerseys, man, and I like how the NBA is kind of bringing back that throwback jersey type thing. You see it, with the Indiana Pacers, they brought the Hoosiers ones. That gets mixed reactions. I kind of like it because that movie is fire. That movie is so good. So a lot of teams are messing with the throwback jerseys and just bringing a lot of new jerseys into the league, and I like these Golden State Warriors threads.
Yeah, they don't quite push for that Miami hot pink and electric blue jersey that they bring out, which is probably the greatest NBA jersey of all time, to be honest. But they look sick. Yeah, if you want to check it out, our Twitter is at P Halfcourt.
Lowercase C, guys.
Yeah, lowercase C. Check it out, and I think you guys will like them just as much as we do. We're going to cut to our first commercial break of the evening. Stick with us. Whenever we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit of NBA Finals performances. Not quite what you guys think. We're going to be recapping our most disappointing finals in recent memory.
Welcome back to Half Court with your hosts, Logan Dolby and Matt McClure on Calm Radio.
Welcome back, guys, here on a Wednesday evening with the guys, Matt McClure and Logan Dolby. One quick mention here. We forgot to throw it in the beginning of the show whenever we were trying to keep you guys current. But Joel Embiid, the 76ers superstar, the process, he says he's lost 25 pounds this summer. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I mean, it's about time. Everybody's been saying this guy needs to drop some weight. We all know what he can do on both sides of the floor. He's got an amazing post game, and he can shoot the ball from 15 feet, and he's still working on the three-point shot. I don't like how he shoots 5 3-point threes a game, but, hey, it happens. But I really like how he finally got the diet right, apparently. We'll see. I mean, who knows? He said he lost 25 pounds. That's his word. I'm taking it. We'll see. Hopefully it helps him out, stay healthy throughout the entire NBA season, and we'll have to see. But Joel Embiid, man, this is your year. This is the year that this guy can be an NBA MVP. You saw glimpses of it last year, and he was playing amazing until he got hurt with the knee after the All-Star break, and I was very critical how he missed a lot of those games in the second half, because if you were going to play in the All-Star game, why didn't you play the rest of the regular season?
Seriously.
So Joel Embiid now losing that weight will probably help him be a little bit more mobile on the court. We know what this guy can do. Now let's put it all together, and now that you lost this weight, let's get it.
Yeah, he's got to come back 100% healthy. He looked like crap in the series against Toronto. He wasn't healthy. He was sick. He was crapping his pants. It was just like, you got to get the diet right, man. You're eating a tub of Nutella and pounding Shirley Temples like it's your job. Come on, dude.
Yeah,
get healthy
Chick-fil-A
now.
Sandwiches. I mean, it was bad there, and you just are very happy to see him finally get that diet right. And let's see if it pays off for him this year.
Yeah. And now moving on to our segment. Yesterday we were talking at the crib, and we're watching this 1998 NBA Hardwood Classic Finals Game 6. Michael Jordan versus the Utah Jazz. And oh my gosh, like we're out here. I know it's September, it's mid-September, and we're fiending for basketball. NBA tip-off is October 4th, so we'll finally be able to get some live action there. But right now, I mean, the other day I was trying to watch a Thursday night football game, and I had to get a free trial to this Fubo app, and they have this Hardwood Classic stuff on there. So I figured I might as well throw it on. I haven't really been able to watch Jordan, do his thing because I was one. So it's like, I can't really butt in on the GOAT conversation or not. But we're watching this and we're trying to think of segments to bring in that's a little bit different for the show because it is the off season. And I think it was you, McClure. You're like, maybe we should do because, maybe we should do like a disappointing finals loss type thing.
Well, the reason that idea struck was because I'm like looking at this Utah Jazz team. And I'm like, John Stockton, Karl Malone, those guys were bad boys, man. You had Stockton, one of the best passers in the NBA's ever seen, and you got one of the most prolific scorers in all of the NBA in Karl Malone, and they just weren't able to get it done. And that Game 6, man, we're watching it. I was like, dang, who's winning this game? Although I knew the Bulls were going to win. I'm like, wonder what happened here. And at the end of that game, after Jordan got the layup to give him to get it within one, and then he did the crossover for the game winner with the hand that no one could see. God. It was absolutely filthy. John Stockton with like 5 seconds left got the ball back, and he had it at the top of the key, and he had a good look for three, man, and that would have forced it to Game 7. And it's just kind of, you saw the disappointment because they showed the post-game interview with Karl Malone on the Hardwood Classics, and you could just see the disappointment. And I kind of struck that idea, in recent memory, like who was a team that should have won the finals and it was just a disappointing year. They probably could have won it. I mean, this is a Bulls team that won 5. And Jordan was at the end of his career, but still they won 5. But this is Stockton and Malone, and they probably look at themselves in the mirror saying, "Man, we had it." And that's where this segment came from.
Yeah. So for my most disappointing finals loss, it's gonna have to be the Golden State Warriors in 2016 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They had beaten them the year prior. They come in the next year. And this was a 73-win team in the regular season. They were supposed to be the best team ever. It was kind of reminiscent of like the Patriots whenever they had their undefeated season. This was basically the NBA equivalent. Nobody's ever going to go undefeated, but losing 9 games in the regular season out of 82, that's it. Oh my gosh, this team was incredible. I mean, they had all the usual suspects: Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. They had Harrison Barnes, Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, and then a bunch of role players. But they absolutely were crushing teams in the Western Conference playoffs. They had so much heat. They had so much history coming in with them. They had the better coach in Steve Kerr against Ty Lue. They had 3 of the best 4 players on the court, I would say, with Kyrie coming in at number 5, which he hits that clutch shot in Game 7. They're up 3-1 in the series. I thought it was over because I watched this whole series with my dad, and it was like you watch Game 1 and 2, and they're in Oracle, so you really don't expect much from this team. And then they take it back to Cleveland. Cleveland crushes them in Game 3, but then they drop a disappointing Game 4. And right there, after that game, I'm sitting at my dad's friend's Mike Young's house, and we're watching the game, eating pizza and stuff. And it's like, oh no, there's no way. There's no way they're coming back from 3-1 against this team. Are you serious? They can't even score. But also, the big thing that happened in that game was Draymond kicking dudes in the nads. He had been doing it all season. He came up in Game 4. kicked more players than that. He got suspended for Game 5 in Oracle, and that was the point where the Cavaliers really gained the momentum. They came in Game 5, slapped the Warriors around. Game 6, slapped them around again, and then, I mean, probably the craziest Game 7 that I've ever witnessed as far as playoffs are concerned. It was incredible to watch. LeBron James limping up to the foul line and Kyrie burying the most clutch three I've ever seen in my life. Me and my dad were on our way back from the Oakmont golf course because the U.S. Open was that week. We had tickets, so we were there that Sunday to watch the end of that, driving back home, listening to it on the radio. It was the craziest thing. We're both so excited because we were both huge LeBron fans. It was just a great moment, but it's just a terrible, terrible loss for the Golden State Warriors that really got in the way of them railing off 4 in a row.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable NBA Finals, and this is they were down 3-1. And no team in the NBA has ever done that until LeBron did. It was just unbelievable what he did and what that Cavs team did. And you're right. When Draymond Green was suspended, it just totally turned the series around, man. They won Game 6. And even in Game 7, you really didn't think they were going to be able to get it done. You knew LeBron's the GOAT of this NBA. You can debate Jordan or LeBron. That's for another day. But he came in Game 7, and it was – you're right, man. That was one of the best games I've ever watched. It was unbelievable. And when Kyrie hit that shot, when he faded away and on the wing for
butter.
3, man, it was butter. I got goosebumps watching that. I mean, and I'm not even a Cavs fan. But just seeing the joy of the fans was unbelievable because they were still on that drought where they haven't won anything in 50 years. If you've ever seen Believe Land, 30 for 30, which is great. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But that was it, man. It was it. And then they won it. And that was the best of those Cleveland Cavaliers, Golden State Warriors finals, without a doubt.
But this team, you needed 3 uber defining moments for the Cavs even to get over the hump. You had to have, first of all, the Draymond Green suspension for one. Then you had to have the Kyrie 3, which will forever go down in history. And then you have the block. Which was amazing. It was
chase down.
The chase down and then the block. Just smashing that ball right off the backboard. Iggy didn't even know what was going on because
he thought he had a wide open layup.
Oh my God. It was incredible. That was just an incredible feat of athleticism there from LeBron James, one of the greatest athletes of all time. This dude, absolute baller. I mean, I love the guy. And this series was by far and away, for me, the most disappointing loss out of any finals.
Well, and if you think about it too, that Warriors team that went to the finals, they had to play the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, and they were down 3-1, and they made that comeback. Oh, yeah. And remember Game 6 when Clay hit 11 threes, and he was just oh, butter. I mean, it was. And then they were up 3-1 and they blew it. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You can't make this stuff up. You really can't. And I mean, they won 73 games. They were the best team in the NBA by far. Remember at the end of the year, they had the Golden State Warriors. They were going for their 73rd win. And then on ESPN2, they had Kobe's last game where he dropped 60 against the Jazz.
Yeah, but he took 85 shots to get it. Yeah, oh yeah. I remember.
That's what we were dealing with. And then they blew that 3-1 lead, and you're just they came back from 3-1, and then they blew 3-1. So they've been in the both scenarios, just unbelievable series. Now we're going to go to my disappointing NBA Finals, and this is one of LeBron's worst moments, I'd say. Or it was kind of towards the middle of his career. He got drafted by the Cavs, and he was this phenom. And then, they lost the 2007 Finals to the Spurs, and it wasn't really going anywhere with that Cavs team. So he moved to Miami with D. Wade, Chris Bosh, and it was the first year that they were all playing together.
Not 3, not 4, not 5.
not 6. Like just it went on and on and on and on. And the first year, I mean, this team was unbelievable. 58 wins, only 24 losses. Eric Spoelstra, the guy was a genius. I mean, that year they were everybody's favorite to make it to the NBA Finals, and they really had no like competition really in those playoffs. They beat the Sixers in 5. I remember watching that series. They lost the game 4. They were up 3-0, and Lou Williams hit a big shot in game 4. Then they played the Celtics in the semis, and they were up 3-0 in that, lost the game in overtime. Then they played the Bulls, and they lost game 1, and then they won the next 4.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. They've lost 3 games in the playoffs thus far in this year, and then they get off to a hot start against the Mavericks. And this is a good Mavericks team here, but they were still the underdog. Dirk, Jason Terry, J.J. Barea, that team. And they won game 1. And then they lost game 2. And that was really, I think, the turning point of that series, because they really they weren't tied at all in that series, like moving up to the playoffs. We're tied there. Then they came back, won game 3, and then lost the next 3. I mean, that is a total collapse. And that was like, and that you watch all the ESPN shows and everything, and everybody was like, is this guy LeBron James the king? And that was a serious question after this series against the Dallas Mavericks. And hey, Dirk was the GOAT in that series. He hit some big time shots. They were dominant. They had great role play from other guys. It was just a really, really just a series that I never really thought was ever going to happen, because the Miami Heat were just dominating like through the playoffs, and then they hit a wall. That game 2 loss, man. And what happens? They win in game 3 and then lose 3 in a row.
Devastating.
Like, that's devastating.
That was absolutely devastating.
That is devastating.
It was like it was sickening too, because like I'm a big LeBron guy. Like I love LeBron James, and he had not won anything up to that point, and that was one of the things that like everybody was dogging him for was, will this guy ever get a chip? Is he ever going to win rings? Jordan's got 6 rings. LeBron still has 0. How can we even compare the two? And at that point, you really couldn't. And then even after that season, you couldn't, because of LeBron's just hilarious collapse. And you look at the scoring leaders for some of these games, or even rebound leaders, and LeBron shows up on none of these stats. He was totally just a ghost. I think the Eastern Conference, he played like crap playing through that too. Mm-hmm. He wasn't that big against Boston. He was pretty good against the Bulls, but and then against Dallas, he was an absolute ghost.
No show.
I didn't understand it at all.
No
watching that game, I'm like, really? Dwayne Wade is going to be your best player, and Chris Bosh is going to be your second best guy?
He shrunk under the pressure.
He really did.
And like you saw that series probably stayed with them the next year, because they went obviously to win it the next year. And do you remember that game the next year? They were playing Boston and they were facing elimination. I think it's one of the best LeBron games ever. When he dropped 45 in TD Garden, he yammed it over Terry. Oh my gosh, that was the game that really snapped the fingers and was like, hey, I'm the best player on the planet. I need to get a chip. I need a chip, man.
We had so many questions to prove. Like, it was just like there were so many questions to answer and so much to prove at that point. It was just like, dude, he has to go and get something done, because you're a player that caliber. How are you not going through with this? Like, just how are you not putting that team on your back with that many superstars? I understand it wasn't the deepest team, and that's kind of why I don't have them as my number 1 collapse. And that the Dallas Mavericks were a relatively deep team, in my opinion, for the time. They were pretty decent, and just like, but Miami was rolling out guys like a Mario Chalmers that really wasn't doing much, or a Mike Bibby, or a Udonis Haslem. trying to squeeze the most out of Mike Miller, who didn't have a role on any other team
Besides that team.
other than that team, and that was to shoot threes.
Stand in the corner and shoot threes. And if you realize, like, towards, like, the other runs, the Heat, like, Udonis Haslem didn't play a role like he did in this one.
Not at all. And this was a Heat team that didn't – that just – you know, they look soft kind of at times. They relied way too much on their star players. It really was like the first super team that I've ever encountered as an NBA fan was whenever they put it all together with the decision, with LeBron coming there. And it was just like, and then you saw them go out the next year and get Battier, you know, to really solidify that roster.
Like a way better Mike Miller.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody who can actually come in, give you defensive minutes, play real defense, and then they went on to win chips. But this year, it was everybody talked about them. They were supposed to be they were the hottest team for basically the whole year. Didn't even quite capture that 1 seed in the East, but you know that's the regular season. This is the playoffs, and it was an absolute collapse. Dirk Nowitzki was awesome, and this was an old Dallas Mavericks team that had been around for a while with Jason Terry and Sean Marion, the most awkward shot that I've ever seen in his. Yeah, it's
alligator arm.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like it's kind of like a Lonzo Ball type shot.
It's
there.
Worse. It's worse.
I don't know how that ball goes in, but he made it go in a younger JJ Barea.
He played a big role in that finals.
Oh, he was a boss,
right? Like I thought he had some big moments in that series, and you know that was, and hasn't really been the same player since then.
JJ, yeah, I mean, we're talking JJ Barea. Oh, yeah. He was huge.
Yeah.
He was the guy who was getting most of the assists for that team. He was dishing it out, finding Dirk in the right spots, getting him so he can do the little fadeaway step back that he likes to do. It was just this Dallas Mavericks team. Nobody thought they were going to win, which is why it was a collapse by the Heat. But was it a good team? I mean, they were good enough to tear through the West that year, which featured some pretty decent ball clubs. It's just this wasn't the deepest team. They had a young Ian Mahinmi, didn't really see too many minutes. Mostly just went 7 deep, as opposed to the Miami Heat, which went 5 deep. That's it.
Yep.
They were 5 deep with Haslam playing the 5. He was 30 years old, and he really couldn't get much done offensively. You know, he's a hammer. He's a hatchet man. He's going to lay the hurt on you. But is he a 5 that you want to take to the finals and really give a lot of minutes to? No. Come on.
No.
This epic collapse by the Heat, and to lose in 6 too. The thing is not even to lose.
Yeah, they lost on their home court.
Yeah. Disgusting.
They lost on their home court. I mean, it was just like LeBron just shrunk, man. He just shrunk, and it's unbelievable how he just wrapped his head around, okay, and you saw what he did after that and just dominated the NBA, went to final after final after final.
Yeah, I mean, that started a long run of, what is it? What would we count? Eight straight?
Eight straight.
8 straight. It was just – LeBron was a ghost, but then, on the other end of it, whenever we're talking 2016, he was the man. Yeah. I mean, he was absolutely clutch. Yeah. He put that team on his shoulders, and Kevin Love, he missed a game, and Tristan Thompson was pretty good back then on that team. J.R. Smith was your 3rd leading scorer. Still, to beat a 73-win team on the other end of it, just a transformation of LeBron in the finals. It speaks a lot for experience, I think, that he can get something done like that, because it was Golden State's 2nd final of all time. I think they got lucky with injuries there year 1 whenever they beat the Cavs in 2015, and 2016 the Cavs were kind of pissed, and LeBron was certainly pissed. So that's very interesting to me, just the maturation process of LeBron James going from Miami to Cleveland, and just these totally 2 different LeBrons that we see in these finals appearances.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, LeBron, from that series in 2010 to that series in 2016, you just saw a growth. He was clutch. And like you said, he just needed that experience, and he came through in the biggest moments. And we'll see if he does it in L.A. now. Welcome back to Half Court with Matt McClure and Logan Dolby, live on Com Radio. Welcome back to Half Court with Matt McClure and Logan Dolby for this Wednesday evening special edition, 9 to 10 p.m. And Dolby, we're going to check in here to the untapped potential. And this is something we were talking about last night when we were prepping for the show, and we were just kind of saying there's some guys that just haven't really seen the court that have really were guys that you thought were going to be big-time players in the NBA. And one of those guys was a former Philadelphia 76er, and that guy's name is Markelle Fultz. He was the first pick in the draft in 2017, and the Sixers traded up. They were at the 3 that year in the draft. They traded up to Boston's spot, who had the number 1 pick. They traded back, and they got Jason Tatum, who's still on the team and is a pretty good player for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, he would have been nice on the 76ers.
Yes, he would. That's the guy exactly who we need.
Yeah.
For the 76ers.
Somebody who can create his own offense and, dish the ball a little bit, go a little bit ISO if he needs to, but somebody who's clutch. Yeah, Markelle Fultz, played 33 games for the Sixers in 2 seasons, averaged 7.7 points, 3.4 rebounds, and 3.4 assists while shooting 41.5% from the field. That's not something that you really want to see from your first overall pick, especially whenever you had to give up the draft capital that the Sixers did right whenever they were coming at the end of the process too. Like this was a final young piece that they were supposed to get. Everybody's talking about that he was supposed to be so great and he played at Washington and he didn't make the NCAA tournament, and who cares because they took a guy at number 1 the previous year that didn't make the tournament either with LSU and Ben Simmons. The two are completely different teams, or 2 totally different players.
Yeah, you said it exactly right there, Dolby. I mean, this was the 3rd guy of the process. You had Simmons, you had Embiid, and you needed that 3rd guy, and you thought it was going to be Markelle, and it just went downhill. Here's what I don't understand. The guy was an unbelievable shooter at Washington.
Averaged 26 points per game.
And he shot the 3.
Yeah, well.
Like, he shot the ball. And he came into the NBA, and he didn't look like he knew how to shoot. I mean, is it a health thing? Is it a health thing, or is it just in his head? I mean, that's the question everybody's been asking the last few years. No one knows except for Markelle Fultz.
Yeah,
no one knows.
I don't even know if he knows. And right now, trainers are trying to figure that out, putting him through rehab down in Orlando. But whenever he was with the 76ers, like, he was sitting out a bunch of games. He came in, and then he came back out, and they were like, well, what's wrong with him? It was this thoracic outlet syndrome, and it affects nerves between the neck and shoulder, resulting in abnormal functional movement and range of motion. So, I mean, that's basically your whole jump shot right there. It's got to be fluid. It's got to be the same thing over and over again, repetition, and it's got to be smooth. You have to have the good follow-through, just all these good mechanics that go into a really nice-looking jump shot, and he can't control his movements in his shoulders or in his back. It's like, well, what were you thinking was going to happen? He's had back injuries, wrist injuries. I mean, this is everything that has to do with playing basketball, is coming in and, like, even getting rebounds and dishing out assists. Like, you got to be accurate with those too. And this dude stunk like a turd sandwich wrapped in burnt hair, man. He was terrible for the Sixers. He has yet to see the court for Miami. He is absolutely stinking up the joint. He's point guard number 2 right now for them. But
does he play in Orlando? How many games does he play in Orlando?
God, I don't even know, because I don't know what his rehab.
If he gets healthy,
if
he gets healthy, do you think he could be a serviceable player? I'm not don't even think about him being like an all-star. Could he be a serviceable player in the NBA?
Could he be better than Michael Carter-Williams in the NBA? Yes.
Yes, if he gets his head right.
Is he going to be better than like a DJ Augustin? No, I don't think he unseats him for that starting point guard role. I don't. He had so much potential coming out. And he had such good size, 6'4", 190. He can go and get boards, average 6.5 boards and assists. In college, he was, he just had all that potential, and none of it came to fruition. It was just sad to see for the 76ers, and it sucks for this young man because he's going to go down as probably the biggest bust ever because, not only did he suck, and does he currently suck, but the implications that it had on that team where they trade him for a bag of chips and a Coke.
Well, they traded a draft pick.
Yeah. Well,
they swapped, they got rid of a draft pick.
Yeah, with the Celtics. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good point there. Like they gave up a lot for to move up to one, but also at the trade deadline last year, they give them up for nothing.
Yeah, Jonathan Simmons and 2 draft picks.
Yeah, I mean, none of those players are currently on the roster, and anything that the 76ers drafted, it really didn't come into play at all. Like they were only set the franchise back, a franchise that had been trying to crawl through for a while, and it just it didn't pan out. Another guy I want to talk about.
This is your boy.
Ew. Thon Maker. Oh my goodness. Is he 26 years old? Is he 22 years old?
Who knows?
We don't know. Well, all we know is he played for a short stint in Canada with some of their academies and stuff up there, almost similar to IMG Academy in Florida there. But like this guy, he was a 10th overall pick by Milwaukee, and he hasn't done anything. He had comparisons to Bol, where Bol was going to go out and get you, 7 blocks a game, where Thon, he gets you about 0.7.
Yeah.
So he doesn't do enough on the offensive or defensive side of the game. He looks slow out there. He got traded to Detroit at the deadline for Stanley Johnson. I mean, this guy is somebody who has yet to develop, chock full of potential. That's what this whole segment is about here. But he hasn't reached that yet, nope. And I don't know if he ever will, because he could be 26 for all we know. He could be at the prime of his game currently.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big guy, 7'1", 220, but just hasn't panned out. And you thought he was going to be a really good player for the Milwaukee Bucks, and they shifted him off to Detroit, and he played in the playoffs, and he really didn't look good there. So we'll have to see with this guy. At least he's playing, unlike Markelle Fultz. I mean, that's got to be a positive.
Yeah,
right?
He gets minutes, right?
He gets minutes.
For 2 playoff teams, he got minutes.
I
mean,
we'll see if it pans
much,
out.
But yeah, we'll see what he can do in this upcoming season coming off the bench for Detroit. Moving on to Michael Porter Jr., last year's 14th overall pick by the Denver Nuggets. Very promising young guy in high school, the number 2 overall recruit coming out of high school. Played at Mizzou, literally played 2 minutes in the regular season for them before he went down with a back injury, and that has haunted him for the last year and a half.
Yeah, and this is a guy that I think can make an impact right away when he starts playing. I mean, he's 6'10", 210, and he can probably shoot the ball. He's a power forward and small forward. We'll have to see. But this is a guy that can be a really solid player in the NBA. He just needs to get on the court, and that's somebody the Denver Nuggets need, man. They need somebody like Michael Porter.
Just put him over the edge. I mean, the number 2 overall seed, or number 2 overall seed last year in the Western Conference. So they could really use that extra guy to give them a push, a nice burst of youth down low. That would be great to put right next to the Joker. Could you imagine these guys?
Please.
Because Michael Porter Jr., what he showed in high school was that he could dish it. He could shoot it. He could get rebounds. He can do it all. And whenever he came back for the NCAA tournament, I know they only played one game. They got beat by Florida State pretty badly, but he had 16 points and 10 boards in like 28 minutes. So he looked good in his one actual showing when it mattered. This guy proved that he can come out and play. And then this offseason, he sprains his knee. He sprains his left knee, and now he's going to be out until November. So it's like, is this guy ever going to get healthy, or are we actually ever going to see him?
Are we going to see him play
on the NBA court? I need to know. Because he could be exciting.
He could be really exciting, but he needs to get on the court. You're not doing anything sitting on the bench, or how good you look during the summer league or at practice when you're shooting the ball. You need to be in game action, man. This guy, Michael Porter, he's got a high upside, and I think he can make an impact right away. He's got to get healthy first.
And our last guy who's chock full of potential that really didn't do much so far in his career was the number 24 overall draft pick last year, Anthony Simons, the 6'4", 185-pound shooting guard out of IMG Academy. He totally skipped college. He went to IMG for his off year, or whatever you want to call it, his layover year. So he was eligible for the draft last year, and he played in 20 games for Toronto as a rookie. Didn't get that many minutes, but in the game that he actually started, he put up 37 points, 9 assists, and 6 rebounds.
Jeez.
The guy's got good size.
He's got game.
He's got excellent potential. I mean, you don't go to IMG if you don't have game, and IMG, is known for playing all these probably the best high school teams in the nation. They go around and they play. It's not really a high school per se, it's an academy. So he has a very rigorous day-to-day routine. They get up very early. They have a shoot around as soon as they wake up. They're in bed by 10. So like this guy, he
got to get your sleep, man.
Yeah, exactly. He knows how to be a professional, I think. I think this guy, if they give him more minutes coming off the bench, and he should be a bench rotational player now behind CJ McCollum. So I mean, he's looking at potentially 15 to 18 minutes a night. And if he shows, a little bit more promise, I think this guy could absolutely explode next year.
We'll have to see, man. I mean, he's got all the potential in the world. And he dropped, you mentioned 37 points. I mean, he can score the ball. We'll just have to see, man. It will be interesting.
He looked great in summer league. I like the guy. He shot 44%. From the field, 35% from beyond the arc with Toronto during his 20 games there. So I like it. And so the draft can be a really cruel mistress for some. It can be, a boon for other teams. It goes one way or the other, and you don't quite know what these players are going to be right away. And you don't quite know what they're going to be in the college game. And so for our next segment here, we're bringing the blast from the draft. So basically what we're going to be doing in this segment, it's going to be weekly now for the off season. We're going to be covering NBA drafts that took place a while ago. So this year this week we're going to start with the 2016 NBA draft, and then we're going to work our way back from there, because we really, from 2017 on, we don't really have a great grasp of what these players are yet.
Yeah, you don't know yet because they haven't really reached their full potential. We said probably 3 to 5 years you'll know if a guy's good or not, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
that's what their game is all about. You know how they're developing, if they're showing improvement or if they're showing regression from their college game. That 3-year to 5-year mark is really where you see players improve the most. So the coaching kicks in, getting used to the 82 games. Everything really starts to mesh for players that 3rd year in the league. Some it really doesn't, and some they've been very surprising. So we have a few categories here. We got the bust of the draft. We have the gem of the draft. We have the smart pick of the draft. We have the best pick of the draft, the WTF pick of the draft, the worst team draft, and the best team draft overall for that year. So this year it's 2016, and we're going to start out with the bust pick of the 2016 draft. Who you got for us, McClure?
Yeah, I got a Dragon Bender. Remember this guy? Top 5 or so pick in the 2016 NBA draft. He's played 2 years with the Suns. He's played 171 games, 20 minutes, 5.3 points. 5.3 points. This is a guy you wanted to be a good scorer, somebody that could. He's huge. I mean, he's 7 feet, 7'1". He's from Croatia. He was an international guy, and honestly, everybody's kind of looking for the next Dirk Nowitzki, the guys who are international. They thought this guy was it, but I'll tell you what, man, what a bust this guy is, man. Shot 38% from the field, which isn't terrible, but it isn't good either.
For a big man? Yeah, come on, dude. You got to be better than that, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you'd hope he kind of stretched the floor a little bit, but he didn't do anything. He's my bust in this draft.
And my bust in this draft is going to have to be Chris Dunn, somebody that scouts were super high on coming out of Providence that year. He had a really good showing in the NCAA tournament, really showed that he could put a team on their back. And then the T-Wolves, they take him fifth overall, and they get basically no production out of him. The good thing is for the T-Wolves is that they traded him. They got rid of him for Jimmy Butler, who in turn they turned into other players. So it really wasn't that bad for the T-Wolves. But as far as busts go, dude, Chris Dunn has just been bad. He starts for the Bulls. The Bulls were terrible last year. They were awful. The last 2 years they've been bad. And that he was like the major chip. It was him and Zach LaVine that they gave up to get Butler. So you give up a franchise player in Butler if you're the Bulls to get back LaVine, who's been great, and then just this absolute dud in Chris Dunn. He's been terrible. I mean, he only is averaging 11.3 last year for points, 6 assists, which is okay, but he's surrounded with young talent. You have to see him dish the ball out a little bit more, and he's getting better at his free throws. His rookie year, he shot 61%. I mean, he's slowly getting a little bit better, but for what we're looking at and what was given up to get him, Chris Dunn for me had to be the biggest bust.
Yeah, Chris Dunn in college, man, he went to Providence.
Filthy.
He was good. I remember my dad told me they went to the NCAA tournament, him and my brother, and they were watching Chris Dunn play, and they were just amazed about this kid, Chris Dunn. So, and it just didn't transfer to the NBA game. Like, it happens all the time, and you mentioned he's a starter for the Bulls, but I think a lot of guys expected him to be a lot better than what he was.
And the thing is, he came out whenever he was 22.
Yep.
So, and he's 24 now. How much farther can his game expand?
How much longer can we go?
Yeah, seriously, how much better are you going to get? You were supposed to be like a really nice polished product coming out after 4 years of college, and you just go and lay an egg in the league. He's somebody who's probably going to be just another rotational guy. Whenever you take him with the 5th overall pick, ahead of guys like Jamal Murray or Domantas Sabonis. These are guys who have been way better. But moving on to the gem of the draft. These are the guys, the diamonds in the rough, the ones that nobody really expected to be great players that turned out to be really solid or great players in the NBA today.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Pascal Siakam from New Mexico State. This guy, he's just grown every year he's been in the league, and he made that step last year, and he was a big reason why, as much as we want to say Kawhi, you can't not say Kawhi got him to the finals and ultimately won him a finals. This guy was the sidekick. It wasn't Lowry. It was Pascal Siakam. And now with Kawhi out, we're going to see what this guy's made of. He had just a great year last year. Remember game 1 of the finals, he dropped 30 points or something like that over the Warriors, kind of set the tone of what that series was going to be like. That's my gem of the draft.
Yeah, he looked fantastic. And as the 27th overall pick, he was in the G League for a while. He was getting coached up by his current coach now, who also stepped up from the G League. So they kind of made that transition together. It's one guy that Nick Nurse brought up with him, and he's really developed into one heck of a player, really got into his own body and put in the work, put in the reps, and he's been a solid guy. For me, though, it's going to have to be Malcolm Brogdon. We talked about him last week. He just signed with the Indiana Pacers. He's to a pretty big, substantial deal there for him. He was kind of I don't want to say the lifeblood, but he was that third guy there for Milwaukee whenever he played for him. He was an excellent college player. Nobody thought he could shoot because, of course, none of those Virginia guys can shoot. He was taken like 36th overall in the draft in the second round.
That's a steal.
And he's a 90, 50, 40 guy for you now? Oh, my gosh. Malcolm Brogdon, what a heck of a transition. And he also came out after, 4 years of college. So his game, he really proved that he can step up. And for a second-round pick, you really can't argue with, his production so far in the league. He has been absolutely outstanding. For me, he was the diamond in the rough. Second-round pick. Now he could potentially be up for an all-star bid.
Yeah, he could.
Next
And
season.
he was really durable too in the NBA until he got hurt last year. This is a guy who really never missed games until last season. So we're going to have to see what he does in that new system in Indiana. I think he's a perfect fit there, and he got a big deal, and deservingly so.
Yeah, and on to our smart pick of the draft. This is somebody that maybe wasn't on everybody's radar. Scouts were wishy-washy on him, but that GM that picked him really cut through the BS, took their guy because they saw the potential. They really understood who this player was going to be. It may not have been a top 5 pick, but somebody who fell outside of that range where these guys are supposed to be locks. McClure, who's your smart pick of the 2016 NBA draft?
I had Jamal Murray because you knew that this guy was going to be, I think, a good player in the NBA because he had range as a shooter and he could dribble the ball, and he wanted the ball in his hands at Kentucky. And he just wanted to – you knew this guy was going to be a solid NBA player in the draft. He was picked in a top 10 there for Denver, and they made a great pick because you see what he did last year, pretty much taking that team, being him and Jokic, being those two guys there. That was my smart pick because he's just going to continue to get better as an NBA player, maybe an all-star, all-NBA team in the near future.
Honestly, he's got great size. He has great touch. He can really take over games. His scoring ability is magnificent. I don't know what GMs were thinking letting him slip to 7th. What an absolute find right there. I mean, if you're talking smart picks, that dude is one of the best players in this draft, if not the second best player currently in this draft. So excellent pick there by the front office for Denver. And for me, I'm going to have to go with Caris LeVert out of Michigan. He had some injury woes. He still has continued to battle through injuries. But while he's on the court and he's going to be fully healthy for this season, he's been fantastic. I mean, the dude comes in, he gives you great minutes, grinds it out for you. He's an excellent athlete. He was the same guy in Michigan. He really fueled that team during their NCAA tournament runs. He was just a really solid player. And for the Brooklyn Nets, who at that time had to be really savvy with their draft picks because they had given the whole haul away to Boston at that point for Pierce and for Kevin Garnett. So they had to be smart with these picks. They were very smart selecting a guy who they thought had really good potential. He's a real accurate guy. He's a dog on defense. He came out at 22 years old, so he had experience. He was a guy that you could throw into the rotation early. And I really like this Caris LeVert guy. I think he's going to be really good for Brooklyn going on into the future for the next 6+ years. He's already proven his worth at a non-lottery pick. You never know what you're going to get out of these guys, but he's really proven his worth, and he deserved to be picked number 20th in that 2016 NBA draft.
Yeah, he was a great pick, and he dealt with the injuries, came back in the playoffs, and played well. Let's see if he makes that jump this year.
And on to our next picks here. This is our WTF pick. This is a pick that really just confused us. It's like, what's going on here? Why is this guy getting selected here? What did these GMs see in these guys? I mean, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get better as a team or no? And for me, my pick is Georgianos Papagiannis. Oh my goodness.
Say that again?
Georgianos Papagiannis. I mean, this guy is basically just the equivalent of like a bologna sandwich on the court. They really could have selected a bologna sandwich, and they would have been much better. They'd at least be less hungry as a franchise because this dude was absolute trash. He played 39 games in his entire career in the NBA, 4.1 points, 3.2 rebounds, and less than 1 assist. He was terrible. His player efficiency rating of 12.6, he just couldn't get it done. He was drafted by the Suns and then traded to Sacramento in that Marquise Chris deal, which we'll get to later. But this dude, I mean, gorgeous Papa John's What are you doing? These guys drafted a pizza. He's awful. This was a pick that's just like, WTF, man. What are you thinking?
Yeah, and my WTF pick is Diamond Stone from the University of Maryland. He was a second rounder, the 40th pick of the draft. This guy, they drafted him so young, and he had a good year at Maryland, but the dude's slow. Did you draft him because he's got a cool name? I mean, it's a great name, Diamond Stone.
Great name.
That's pretty cool, man. But the guy's played 7 games in the NBA, 1.4 points, 23%. He's in the G League now. Now you're really struggling finding somebody good, in the second round. But Diamond Stone, how are you drafting him? That's like drafting Tony Carr for Penn State. It really is. I mean, the guy's played 1 year.
Terrible.
Played 1 year at Maryland, and he was good. But let's see if this guy can develop. Tony Carr obviously came out a year early, I think a lot of people say, and he's playing overseas. Diamond Stone, he's playing in the G League. That's my WTF pick.
I mean, Diamond Stone, come on, man. He's just, what were you thinking? I remember watching this guy in college, and like you said, he just looks slow. And you get guys like an Isaiah Whitehead, who was a good pick, who's played solid minutes, who was taken after him. You got guys like a Jake Layman, who is a rotational player for Portland, that was taken after him in the draft. And, I mean, basically everybody was taken after Georgianos Papagiannis. He was taken 13th overall here.
Jeez.
Come on, these guys. WTF, man. Just there's no wonder.
There's no need. There's just no need to draft some of these guys.
Who drafted Stone?
The Pelicans, and then they traded him to the Clippers.
Oh, well, okay, no wonder. Both these teams have really not had too much success in the playoffs as of late. So, I mean, it's really for the Kings, not that surprising. And for the Clippers, come on, guys. Come on. What are you doing? Diamond Stone?
Really?
I feel like they just wanted that on their roster.
I feel like they just want, Diamond Stone.
Dude, sounds hard, man.
Guy's a grinder in the paint.
All right, we are going to move on to the worst team draft. For me, I gotta go the Kings. I mean, they selected Marquise Chris. They trade him to the Suns. They select Chris at number 8, right? They trade him to the Suns for the 13th overall pick and like the 28th overall pick. They ended up getting gorgeous Papa John's and Scalabissier, who he sucked at Kentucky. He sucked, dude. And then they
drafted him because he was a big guy, and John Calipari in Kentucky.
Yeah, and he was just a classic Kentucky big guy. He's soft. Yeah. He continues to be soft, and he hasn't really got a rotational place yet in Portland, which they needed him to be big in the playoffs, and he sucks still. It was like, this guy hasn't developed. Papagiannis is what I don't even know what to say here that I can say on air. Like, this guy's just terrible.
Hey, they're not good.
And Isaiah Cousins in the second round, who has played 0 minutes in the NBA. Like, this was a completely wasted draft for the Sacramento Kings, and you see why they haven't made the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah. And we'll go to mine here real quick. The Phoenix Suns. Dragon Bender. Then they get Papa John's.
Who they flip.
Who they flip.
For Marquise Chris.
Yep. And Tyler Ulis. I mean, how bad is that? How bad is that?
Terrible.
Tyler Ulis is a guy that I thought, you thought people thought that he might have had a good potential in the NBA, and it just never clicked. And you see where the Phoenix Suns are today, man. They got Devin Booker, and that's about it.
That's all.
That's about it. And
DeAndre
you know why?
Ayton, a bunch of young guys. That's it.
Yeah. And you know why? Because drafts exactly like this. Bust. It's like 1 out of every 10 picks. Oh, that guy is a great player, like, for them. I mean, that's what it seems like. They haven't been good in years since Nash and Stoudemire.
Gosh, that franchise just needs to get their stuff together.
Yeah, man. I don't know what the deal is.
Tyler, he's 5'8". Like, what do you think this guy's going to do in the NBA? Right? Like, there's about 2 or 3 5'8" players that actually make a difference in the NBA in all time. So it's like, okay, yeah, take a flyer on the 5'8" guy. No, he sucks. He's too small, and he's a defensive liability.
Yeah. No.
Do they not see the big picture in Phoenix? It's been sad.
Yeah. It's been really sad. And now, Dolby, we agreed on this one. We agreed on this one. Explain the best draft in the 2016.
All right, so for the best draft in 2016, we're going with the Toronto Raptors here. The draft Pascal Siakam, who was one of the gems of the draft, taken number 27th, and they get Jakob Poeltl. And they actually took Poeltl higher than they took Siakam. They took Poeltl at 9. But the thing is, Poeltl hasn't really developed into anything special, and he hasn't been special. But the fact that he was a big chip in that trade to get Kawhi Leonard and to get Danny Green into Toronto to come in and win a chip for 1 year, I mean, that alone is worth being the best draft for this year. It's like, you trade a guy in Poeltl that has been so-so. He's a big guy. He was decent in college. And then you trade a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who had literally been dragging your franchise down with his inefficiency. You flip both those guys for two way better players that turn into a championship.
Turns into a champion. I mean, that's all you had to say.
Best draft
in 2016. I originally had the Denver Nuggets because all three of those, the three of their guys that they drafted Jamal Murray, Juan Hernan Gomez, and Malik Beasley, who are all serviceable players in the NBA. But, when Dolby told me, look at this Raptors draft, and you see that they flipped Kawhi. They got Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, how can you not say they had the best draft?
The MVP of the finals and one of the 6 men candidates of the year? Yeah. Okay, sign me up.
Sign me up.
All day. All day if you're getting that out of that draft, basically.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah. Excellent job by the Toronto Raptors. And you know what? Like the opposite of the Phoenix Suns, they win chips, and the Phoenix Suns do nothing but lose.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the story right there, guys. I mean, best draft for the team has to be the Toronto Raptors. We did our research, man, and it was close. But when you generate a championship, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Exactly. And that's going to be all for our show. Don't forget to share this on Facebook Live, or if you're watching, we are now on YouTube. So if you want to check that out, we are Halfcourt Show. You can just search Logan Dolby or Matt McClure. We're going to be the first things that pop up there. We have selected clips on the channel right now. If you want to subscribe there or follow us on Twitter at PHalfcourt. Thanks for listening, guys. As always, we've had a blast. I hope you had as much fun as we did. We love you guys.